Her name was Sophia, the only daughter of a wealthy businessman. Life had always smiled at her fame, fortune, beauty, everything money could buy. She was the envy of everyone. A princess living in a modern-day fairy tale, but in one tragic, heart-stopping moment. Everything she knew was ripped away from her. A devastating car accident stole her ability to walk, confining her to a wheelchair. The laughter that once filled her heart turned into silent tears. The world she once commanded now looked down on her with pity. People she once called friends started to drift away. Some stayed, but their kindness felt hollow. A performance for her father's wealth. But Sophia didn't want pity or pretense. All she yearned for was something real, something pure, true love. She dreamed of a man who would see past the wheels and into her soul. One quiet afternoon, seeking a small escape, Sophia went to a simple fast food restaurant. She found a corner table and sat by herself. Watching the world move on without her, she saw people walking, running, dancing through life's simple freedoms she missed more than words could say. Her heart ached with a loneliness that no amount of money could cure. Just then, a young man named Samson approached her table. He had a kind face and a gentle energy. "Excuse me," he said politely, "is this seat taken?" Sophia, surprised but intrigued, decided to test him. It was a small, secret game she played to see what people were really made of. She subtly tipped her glass, spilling a little water onto the empty chair beside her. "No, it's free," she replied, watching him closely. Without a moment's hesitation, Samson sat down, not even flinching at the damp seat. He smiled warmly, and his eyes met hers with genuine admiration. "You have the most beautiful smile," he said, speaking to her with a respect she hadn't felt in a very long time. For the first time since the accident, Sophia felt seen. Not as a girl in a wheelchair, not as a rich man's daughter, but simply as herself. As their conversation ended and he prepared to leave, he asked softly, "Can I have your number?" A real, shy smile touched Sophia's lips as she wrote it down for him. Her heart fluttered with a hope she thought was long gone. But as Samson walked out of the restaurant, he turned and saw her being helped into her wheelchair. His heart trembled. A wave of doubt washed over him. His pride, his fear of what others might think, whispered poison in his ear. "You can't be with her. People will talk." In a moment of weakness, he tore the small piece of paper, her number, her hope, into pieces and threw it away. Days turned into weeks, and Sophia tried her best to forget the kind-faced man from the restaurant. She told herself it was just a fleeting moment, a silly dream. But destiny, it seems, had a different plan. Samson, struggling to support his family, was desperately looking for work. He applied for a personal driving job, hoping for a steady income. When he arrived for the interview at a grand mansion, his heart stopped dead in his chest. The lady he was supposed to drive was none other than Sophia, the very woman whose number, and whose heart, he had so carelessly thrown away. Sophia recognized him instantly. A flicker of surprise, maybe a hint of pain, crossed her face, but she quickly hid it behind a gentle smile. She turned to her father and said quietly, "Please hire him. I want him to be my driver." And just like that, Samson's life became intertwined with hers. From that day on, he drove her everywhere, to grueling physical therapy sessions, to important business meetings, and to quiet parks where she would sit and watch the world go by. A heavy guilt gnawed at Samson's heart every time he looked at her in the rearview mirror. He saw her grace, her quiet determination, and her unspoken pain. But Sophia never once mentioned the restaurant, never brought up the torn piece of paper. She treated him with nothing but kindness, spoke to him with a soft voice, and offered a silent, profound forgiveness that humbled him to his core. Over time, Samson's perspective began to shift. He started to see what he had been so blind to before. He saw her incredible strength, her unwavering faith, and the immense, beautiful heart she possessed. He realized she wasn't weak at all. She was a warrior in a wheelchair, fighting battles he couldn't even imagine, and winning them with grace. As the months passed, other rich and handsome suitors began to visit Sophia, showering her with gifts and grand promises. Samson would watch from a distance, a fierce, Unfamiliar jealousy burning in his chest, he stood by in silence, his heart aching. Until one night, he couldn't bear it anymore. After dropping her home, with tears welling in his eyes, he finally confessed. "Sophia," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "I made a terrible mistake. I judged you by what I saw, not by who you are. I should have held onto that number. I should have seen your beautiful heart before I saw your chair. Can you ever forgive me?" Sophia looked at him, her eyes filled with a deep, gentle understanding. She reached out and placed her hand on his. "It's never too late to love right," she whispered, her voice a balm to his tormented soul. From that moment on, their bond transformed. It grew deeper, stronger, and more real than any fairy tale. Samson became more than just her driver. He became her protector, her confidant, her peace, and the reason her heart learned to laugh again. Years later, against all odds, against all whispers and judgments, the rich girl in a wheelchair and the humble driver stood before an altar, hand in hand. As they exchanged their vows, Sophia smiled through joyful tears and said words that would define their love story forever. "True love isn't about walking together, it's about standing by each other. Her even when one can't walk." And from that day forward, they lived out their promise, proving to the world that real, unconditional love doesn't see weakness, it only sees worth. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. We'll see you in the next video.